Okay, so in 2016, India passed a law with a name that, let's be honest, sounds incredibly boring: the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. But what if I told you the story behind this law is actually a thriller? It's all about economic gridlock, total legal chaos, and a revolution that completely reshaped the country's business landscape. Let's get into it. It all comes down to one really basic question. What happens when a business just can't pay its bills? For decades in India, the answer to that question was, well, it was chaos. It was a kind of economic quicksand that was just swallowing capital and completely crippling growth. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, we're going to step into the shoes of a lender back in pre-2016 India just to see how bad things really were. Then, we'll untangle the legal mess that created the whole problem, see what finally pushed the system to its breaking point, and then, finally, we'll meet the solution, the IBC, and understand why its impact was so massive. All right, let's start with the reality on the ground before this whole reform happened. If you were a lender, and I'm talking a big bank or even just a small supplier, trying to get your money back from a failing company wasn't just hard, it was an absolute nightmare. The whole process was just agonizingly slow. And we're not talking about a delay of a few months here, we're talking years, sometimes even decades. Can you imagine that? You lend out your money, you watch the business fail, and then you're stuck in a multi-decade waiting game with zero guarantee you'd ever see a single rupee again. Get this, 4.3 years. That was the average time it took to resolve a single case. For over 4 years, you had money frozen, assets just rotting away, and the entire economic engine was just sputtering because of it. It was a colossal waste of time and resources. So you've got to ask, why these incredible delays? I mean, was it just slow paperwork? Not at all. The problem was literally baked into the legal framework that was supposed to handle all of this in the first place. This is what you were up against as a creditor. A total patchwork of different laws, different courts, all with overlapping powers. A clever borrower could literally play these laws against each other, using one to block a case brought under another. It was a legal maze practically designed for delay. It's been described like a hospital with no doctors. Think about it. Everyone could see the company was financially sick, right? But there was no single authority, no one person who could make a decisive call. So instead of any real treatment, you just got endless paperwork and legal battles, while the patient, the company, just got sicker and sicker. Now, this broken system wasn't just a headache for the lenders. Its effects were starting to ripple outwards, and they were beginning to drag down the entire Indian economy. The country was seriously hurtling towards a breaking point. You had billions of dollars trapped inside these so-called zombie companies, businesses that weren't officially dead, but they weren't really alive either. And that was all capital that banks couldn't lend out to new, exciting ventures. Naturally, this stalled economic growth, and as you can imagine, it made international investors really nervous about putting their money in India. And this is where the whole story pivots. To solve this massive crisis, the Indian government introduced a single, comprehensive law designed to completely replace that tangled web we saw earlier. Enter the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code of 2016. The change was just dramatic. The timeline for getting a resolution went from an unknown number of years to a strict, legally mandated 180 to 330 days. And, crucially, control was finally taken away from the defaulting business owners and given to the people who were owed the money, the creditors. The whole goal shifted from these endless, slow revival attempts to decisive, fast resolution. And this, right here, is the absolute heart of the reform, the creditor in control model. It was a game changer because it fundamentally flipped the power dynamic. For the first time ever, the people who were owed the money were put in the driver's seat. They got to decide the future of the company. And that one single change took away the incentive for defaulting owners to just delay and delay and delay. So how does it work now? Well, the IBC laid out a really clear, predictable process. It all starts with a default. Then, a case gets filed with a special court. Immediately, an independent professional takes over the company's management, and a committee of creditors is formed. This committee then votes on a rescue plan, or, if they can't agree on one, it's liquidation. It's structured, and most importantly, it has a firm deadline. So, a new, streamlined code was put in place. But what was the real-world impact? Well, this wasn't just some legal fine-tuning. This change sent massive shockwaves through India's entire economy. The ripple effect was just enormous.
India shot up in the World Bank's ease of doing business rankings, which is a huge signal to the world that it's a safer place to invest. All that capital that was once trapped for years was now being recycled back into the economy much, much faster. This boosted lender confidence, which in turn made it easier for new entrepreneurs to get loans. But maybe the most important thing is that it started to change the entire culture around debt in India, sending a crystal clear message: you have to pay what you owe.
The IBC was, without a doubt, a bold and necessary revolution. It took a broken, fragmented system and replaced it with one built for speed and decisiveness. It has fundamentally changed the relationship between borrowers and lenders in India. But this leaves us with one final thought. A revolutionary code has been set in motion, but is the mission of transforming India's credit culture truly complete? The foundation has been laid, for sure, but the work continues.